Really great distinguished panel here. As an elected official, I want to kind of give you the viewpoint that at least I have among my colleagues in Congress, and I speak only for myself because this troubles me greatly. For the better part of 40 years, for the better part of 40 years, your government has told you that China is a strategic adversary, so to speak, or competitor, a competitor that if we just infuse them with the capitalist system and get them involved in our market and we got involved in their market, that they would become like us. Well, I'm here to tell you that's all a lie. All right, it's been a lie, and they believed it, and they took great efforts to make that so. But it just never happened, and they're finally coming to the realization. I tell you that because most of your neighbors, most of America, whatever they look at is made in China, and it's in their house, and so they're very comfortable with it. And I will tell you, you're all, I'm sure, very familiar with the old story of the Trojan horse to get behind the gates. Well, this isn't a Trojan horse like this. This is actually more insidious. This is worse than that, because the gate that China's looking to get in, we have gone outside the gate and built the Trojan horse for China. And you've heard that here in so many different ways. I'm going to talk to you just about a couple things that will kind of indicate the urgency and the scope of the matter. So 10 years ago, there was no Chinese company in the top 10 companies in the world. There was not one. Now there are 5. 5 out of 10 are the top 10 companies in the world. From a military buildup standpoint, you do know that they have stolen, and when I say stolen, I literally mean stolen, the plans to the F-35, the C-17, and the F-22 aircraft, and of course we see their variants. So that's one of the ways they've been able to bridge the gap of time and innovation and production to reach parity with the United States on a military level. 10 years ago, China had 0 blue water navy, 0. They lied about the carrier. They bought an old carrier from Ukraine, an old ship from Ukraine, and turned it into a carrier. They built another one, and now they're building nuclear carriers. And and just put it in terms of having 0 blue water navy just a few years ago. I'll just give you a couple stats here. By 2020, which is now, 330 warships, 66 submarines. In 10 years, 450 surface ships and 99 submarines. The PLA is told by this year they have to be ready to invade Taiwan, which is one of their goals. That's a big carrier sitting off their coast that's friendly with the United States, and they simply cannot have it. And you have to wonder to yourself, what is the United States really going to do? What is the United States going to do if they invade China? They have stolen our hyper missile technology, so we're talking in excess of 7,500 miles an hour. We have 0 defense, and so what we talk about left of launch. So if you look at a timeline moving to the right, what their plan is, it doesn't matter, folks, if we have the best carriers, the best fighters, the best bombers, the best training, the best equipment. I tell people it's never going to get out of the hangar. It's never going to get out of the port. They're going to know where every single submarine we have is. And when I say left of launch, by the time we decide we're going to do something to defend a friend or to defend ourselves, they're already going to know it. I suspect Steve or Gordon talked about quantum communications and the dark side of the moon and so on and so forth. All the things that they are doing and beating us in right now to make sure that no matter what we have and no matter how good we are, it's not going to matter, because we're not even going to make it to the fight. We're going to be back here, right?
That's right.
And so that's what they're doing. I mean, the numbers are staggering. They want nearly 42,000 land and sea-based unmanned weapons in 3 years. Just think about how many drones will be floating under the sea tracking our submarines, tracking the nuclear triad everywhere. Just think about planes trying to take off, the ones that do make it out because they didn't get them in the left of launch sequence, being swarmed by a bunch of drones targeted to fly into the engines. These are the plans. This is incredibly insidious, and that's just the military component. What's actually more insidious is some of the other things that they're interested in doing. You talk about self-driving cars, and you're concerned maybe with Tesla. If you looked at recently a case where the car crashed, or Google or anybody with a car crashed? What about the Chinese system that's in every single one of those cars when China wants to disrupt America and tells the car to run over people in the street? That's what the capability is that we're talking about. Every single thing, every part of your daily life, part of it. Now, how do they get the money? Think about this. We have these companies that General Quast talked about that have been run out of business, American companies, and some that are on the verge right now by China. China gave Huawei $100 billion as a line of credit. You wonder how this happens? Where does China get the extra $100 billion? Well, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, it's you and it's me. We're helping finance it. And this is the plan. So let me just, as a person who's been privileged and honored to serve in the military for many, many years, as the good general has here and the good captain has here, we pay into TSP, Thrift Savings Plan. And if you work for the government, you can pay into Thrift Savings Plan too. But it's even, to me, it's even more insidious as a person who's worn the uniform who might have to face an enemy that is China someday. So just a couple years ago, the Retirement Board, which oversees the management, I think about $500 billion, adopted a new benchmark for TSP, the International Stock Fund, the I Fund. Understand what that means in the capital markets and otherwise. Every time we invest in our retirement, we're investing in China. The same companies, I got a whole list of companies here that are stealing the F-35, the F-22, the C-17, the hypersonic, they're stealing it, and we're financing them to steal it right now. There are not the same requirements for Chinese companies investing in America than there are for American companies. This is the insidiousness of it. And so what the plan is, quite honestly, is so many Americans will have their retirement, their stock. I heard it from constituents just this week with this virus and the loss in the capital markets, and they're saying, my stock's down. What are you doing about it? They're worried about it. Well, think about when China wants to do something in the United States and we want to respond, and everybody in America that got stock goes down, the advocacy that's going to pressurize Washington, D.C. under those circumstances. By 2025, China's they've got the Assassin's Mace and the 100-year marathon, and Made in China 2025. Let me just talk to you about a couple things, and then I'm sure your folks will have some questions, and Frank's got a good program here. This is some of the things that they're really interested in. Robotics and automation, biotechnology, aircraft and aircraft components, agriculture. You think this is all high-tech stuff or all military stuff? Agriculture. We got to be able to feed ourselves, and if you can't, like that's what they're looking at. Clean energy vehicles, electric generation. Think about what happens when the power goes out, when they put all our generation and transformer companies out of business, occurring right now. New materials, you've heard of rare earth minerals. Folks, they're not rare, but we won't mine them in this country because of regulations, and they use their capital projects to go around the world, buy that stuff up, and close us out of the deal. Maritime vessels and marine equipment, advanced rail equipment, you think, who cares if they want to buy the San Francisco transit system? God bless China if they want to do that. That's where it starts. And then they take the rail yards and the supply chain. And not only the supply chain about the paper plates and the masks that are coming to your house, the supply chain that this general will use to project power around the world. They're going to know which car the tank is sitting on, and they're going to know what its disposition is and whether to disable it in place or wait till it gets another couple miles down the road. When you think about how the insidiousness and the total encompassing involvement of China, who, by the way, the PLA has declared us as their enemy. They've said so. They have said so. We just haven't figured it out yet, or we're too afraid or too unwilling to mention it. But when you think about how they're involved in every single aspect of every part of your life, and all it takes from them is a flip of the switch, especially if Huawei has 5G. It destroys America just like that. And that's what we're headed for. So I just urge you, wherever you're from, talk to your member of Congress. I can get little help on some of the efforts that we're trying to move forward about the urgency of what's in front of us right now. But I hope I've kind of depicted a little bit of it for you, and I turn it back to Frank.
Congressman, thank you.